Chapter 18. The Christian conception of God. God as God of the sick, God as a spider, God as spirit, is one of the most corrupt conceptions of the divine ever attained on earth. It may even represent the low water mark in the descending development of divine types. God degenerated into the contradiction of life instead of being its transfiguration and eternal yes. God is the declaration of war against life, against nature, against the will to live. God, the formula for every slander against this world, for every lie about the beyond. God, the deification of nothingness, the will to nothingness pronounced holy. Chapter 19. That the strong races of Northern Europe did not reject the Christian God certainly does no credit to their religious genius, not to speak of their taste. There's no excuse whatever for their failure to dispose of such a sickly and senile product of decadence, but a curse lies upon them for this failure. They have absorbed sickness, old age, and contradiction into all their instincts, and since then they have not created another God. Almost 2,000 years, and not a single new God. But still, as if his existence were justified, as if he represented the ultimate and the maximum of the God-creating power of the Creator Spiritus in man, this pitiful God of Christian monotheism, this hybrid product of decay, this mixture of zero concept and contradiction in which all the instincts of decadence, all cowardices and weariness of the soul find their sanction. Chapter 20. I hope that my condemnation of Christianity does not involve me in any injustice to a related religion with an even larger number of adherents, Buddhism. Both belong together as nihilistic religions. They are religions of decadence, but they differ most remarkably. For being in a position now to compare them, the critic of Christianity is profoundly grateful to the students of India. Buddhism is 100 times more realistic than Christianity. Posing problems objectively and coolly is part of its inheritance, for Buddhism comes after a philosophic movement which spanned centuries. The concept of God had long been disposed of when it arrived. Buddhism is the only genuinely positivistic religion in history. This applies even to its theory of knowledge, a strict phenomenalism. It no longer says struggle against sin, but duly respectful of reality, struggle against suffering. It no longer says struggle against sin, but duly respectful of reality, struggle against suffering. Buddhism is profoundly distinguished from Christianity by the fact that the self-deception of the moral concepts lies far behind it. In my terms, it stands beyond good and evil. The two physiological facts on which it is based and which it keeps in mind are, first, an excessive sensitivity which manifests itself in a refined susceptibility to pain, and second, an over-spiritualization and all too long preoccupation with concepts and logical procedures which has damaged the instinct of personality by subordinating it to the impersonal. Both states which at least some of my readers, those who are objective like myself, will know from experience. These physiological conditions have led to a depression, and the Buddha proceeds against this with hygienic measures. Against it, he recommends life in the open air, the wandering life, moderation in eating and a careful selection of foods, wariness of all intoxicants, wariness also of all emotions that activate the gallbladder or heat the blood, no worry either for oneself or for others. He prescribes ideas which are either soothing or cheering, and he invents means for weaning oneself from all the others. He understands goodness and graciousness as health promoting. Prayer is ruled out, and so is asceticism. There is no categorical imperative, no compulsion whatever, not even in the monastic societies one may leave again. All these things would merely increase the excessive sensitivity we mentioned. For the same reason, he does not ask his followers to fight those who think otherwise. There is nothing to which his doctrine is more opposed than the feeling of revenge, antipathy, ressentiment. It is not by enmity that enmity is ended. That is the stirring refrain of all Buddhism. It is not by enmity that enmity is ended. And all this is quite right. These emotions would indeed be utterly unhealthy in view of the basic hygienic purpose. Against the spiritual exhaustion he encounters, which manifests itself in an excessive objectivity, that is, in the individual's loss of interest in himself, in the loss of a center of gravity of egoism, he fights with a rigorous attempt to lead back even the most spiritual interests to the person. In the Buddha's doctrine, egoism becomes a duty. The one thing needful, the question, how can you escape from suffering, regulates and limits the whole spiritual diet. Perhaps one may here recall that Athenian who also waged war against any pure scientism, Socrates, who elevated personal egoism to an ethic even in the realm of problems.